Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Shooting the Breeze at Bobby V's. Today we are not at Bobby V's, we are at Sacred Heart University campus, but we actually have Bobby V with us. So welcome Bobby to the episode of the podcast.
Yes, Anthony, great being with you guys. I am excited to shoot the breeze. Awesome. Let's do it.
So I think we've listed a bunch of different topics we wanted to cover today. We went through them and then we threw them all out the window.
Nice idea.
Like, yeah, I think that's kind
perfect.
of what
That's the way we fly, yeah. That's it.
Kind of like the umpire thing last night. Did you see that? I don't know if we even talked about talking about that. But
yeah, I want to dive into that
because
I heard
delay
it
on the umpire change last night.
There's a delay.
You see how long it took? What I think happened is they had to get clearance from the commissioner, and if it wasn't going to be the guy in rotation, who was Kerwin Danley, if they wanted someone who wasn't in that rotation, all right, the regular rotation, they had to clear it through the union. And so I think he was in there half changed, wondering, am I going behind the plate, or are we going to bring the guy from the left field foul line or right field foul line or wherever it is that the commissioners and probably the analytic people in the commissioner's department who are trying to get as many strikes called strikes and balls called balls in this national venue. And they have the same interest as the union to get as many strikes called strikes and balls called balls so that they're not replaced by machines. So there had to be a conversation because
so now
this was game
for
3.
Umpires too.
Oh, of course, yeah. At one time the umpires were like judgeships, and once you got there, and to get there was a grueling situation where you had to go through at least 7 years in the minor leagues, and in the minor leagues you never had a home city. So you were on the road every 3 days. You'd go to another series, live in a hotel, drive in your car, and do that for 6 years at least, and then get to the major leagues. Once you got there, you stayed there forever. Now there's a rating system from the players, and there's also an analytical eval that they do for all umpires where they can actually kind of get put on the sidelines for a while, sent to the minor leagues possibly, or put into New York where they have that command center that does all the reviews. Get off.
So they're not good enough on the field, put them in the review booth?
Yes, get them off the field. You make sure they keep their job. Yeah. Of course.
All right, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Bobby's for his podcast with us. There's a lot more informative stuff going on when you're. But how about this? Yeah. How about if...
And I could be wrong about that. That's just a guess on what the delay was.
How about if Cole came out from that long delay and didn't pitch well? There would have been a lot of controversy flying today. I'm with you totally. And I was at the restaurant watching, and I mentioned that exact thing. I said, this is a guy who hasn't been in this situation. He's had a situation in his life where he's always been great, but hasn't had great results. He always threw 97. He came out of college throwing 99. He was with other teams having success, but not being the greatest pitcher who ever lived. And now he's in Yankee Stadium, and he has that delay. After the Yankees were almost getting to him, so the question was during the delay. And I guess that was after the 4th inning, huh? I don't know what inning it was.
Yeah, I think it was after. I think it might have been after the 4th inning, and then there's a long delay, and the Yankees have now had maybe 10 guys on base in the 4 innings. I'm just guessing, but they've had guys on base, maybe 7. And my question was, when he has this long delay, is he thinking, I don't have my great stuff and they're getting to me? Or is he saying, even when they get guys on, they have no chance of scoring because I'm the dude, And whichever conversation he was having with himself during that break, and I guess it was that he was the dude.
He was the guy. His past couple starts.
Yes. So he came out and did it again. Yeah.
But back to your question, what about if Didi's ball goes out, and why didn't that ball go out? The whole ball controversy. Do we want to talk about that?
The next morning on the radio, they're talking about the balls being juiced, which was kind of a topic all year long, where the increase in home runs. I forget the percentage, but it was a significant spike this year compared to last year.
Including in the minor leagues where they used the same ball, and there was a 55% increase in home runs.
Right.
In
Wasn't there-
AAA this year.
There was an independent league too that they didn't change the balls, or they were the ones that changed the balls, and they saw their numbers.
Yeah, the
spike
Atlantic
their
League
level.
is like the beta site for Major League Baseball now. So they do test studies there. They even had the electronic umpire. They had the no
Right.
check swing this year. They had the steal first base.
Bigger bases.
All those little bigger bases, all those things that they're kind of trying to be a little innovative. So that's the beta site for MLB. But the thing is, the analytics have jumped into that ball travel, like you're talking about the ball, right? And so that idea of the ball traveling should just be now a simple idea of understanding the humidity and temperature and wind that are already in the big data system that's been collected over 5 years. And if that's been collected over 5 years, along with the velocity off of the bat, with trajectory of the ball off the bat, then they should be able to say that 3 years ago, a ball that came off the bat at 115 miles an hour at a 33% trajectory rate should have gone the same distance that it went this year.
When all the atmospheric conditions are factored in.
As
too,
soon
the
as
spin
those
on
are
the ball.
factored in,
Yep.
because you have the big data and you can absolutely get that, okay? Now, the only question would be, though, I guess, is it that the ball itself that's creating the velocity off the bat? Hi, do you get that one for a second? So if the ball is more resilient, that there's a trampoline effect when the ball and bat collision occurs, right? The bat changes shape and the ball changes shape. And then in a megasecond, they regain their form. And that trampoline effect is what gives the ball the oomph. It gives the magic and the speed, along with, of course, the force of the bat and the way the bat vibrates and bends are all into that equation of the collision of bat ball. But if they have the same data from 4 years ago, and supposedly it was a different ball, and you got the same data today and it's not going as far or further, voila, it's a different ball.
Right.
And it is a different ball. And the way you don't need metrics, as Frank and I have talked about, and I think we've even mentioned, you don't need the metrics necessarily to tell you it's a different ball. You need to watch the human reaction. And when the outfielder starts running for a ball that he thinks he's going to catch, and he gets to the warning track and he looks up and it goes into the third deck, well, that ball just traveled more than the balls that this guy's used to running after. Okay? And it's not because of anything other than the ball being different. And Didi's reaction last night was the telltale that that ball was changed back. Because he knows when he hits the ball where it's going to go. And that one fell short. You know, it's interesting. I played at the Metrodome when I managed with the Texas Rangers, and they fiddled with the air that came in and out. They had these huge. Frank is a twin guy. He was ready to, jump into the dome, weren't you?
I was going with the twin thing, and then you said air, and I was going to segue into something.
We know where your air comes from, Frank. Yes, but anyway, I accused them of fiddling with it during the game. When they had the lead, they would have their return air ducts and they were huge behind home plate, like 3 tunnels, if you remember.
Tokyo Dome.
And Tokyo Dome had the exact same thing. So it's
really same concept, changing the airflow. When we're hitting, it's blowing out. When you guys are hitting, it's blowing in.
Depending on the scoreboard. Yeah, and as much as I accused them, they always said, that it didn't happen until they tore the Metrodome down. And the guy who was in charge, the mechanical operations guy of the Dome, after 35 years retired, and in an article said, yes, in fact, my job was to control the air after the 8th inning and make sure it was blowing in if the home team was ahead, and make sure it was blowing out if they weren't.
Oh, so they wouldn't change it in between innings. They would just wait for the end of the game and then see where the game was.
No, in between innings. That's when they would change it. They would change it. Like after 7, if the Twins were ahead, the wind was blowing in. So we'd hit balls that were home runs and take a right turn around first base. They go, what the hell? How did Kirby Puckett get underneath that ball? It should have been up there in the stands.
It just gets knocked down.
Just got knocked down by this.
That's
and I
good.
would stand at the dugout, at the end of the dugout. Behind me was the tunnel that would go up to the locker room, okay? And when you opened and closed the doors of the locker room, you'd get a little breeze all the time.
Right.
When we were ahead, it was like my hat was blowing off when they would open the door because the wind was blowing out. And that's how I got the clue.
That is a true home field advantage.
That's a home field advantage. So was last night's a different ball? There's no doubt about it. And is that right, wrong, indifferent? I don't know. You know, Major League Baseball owns the company that makes the balls. Why couldn't they control what they want in a ball? Remember, I just read this thing to you in 2013. The commissioner of Japanese baseball did the same thing. He increased that elasticity of the ball to get more home runs. The only problem is he didn't tell anyone who was doing it. And halfway through the season, there was such a big controversy about little guys who are now hitting balls over the fence. Oh, have we heard that one before this year? Yeah.
That picture you just showed me earlier, Altuve next to Judge, 1 home run, 4 home runs.
Yeah. Thank God it didn't happen in 2005.
That's right. No, there's no balls messed. We weren't messing with the balls in 2005. But anyway, that's where we're at with the ball.
Has the MLB come out and said anything about the ball or made any statements about?
Yeah, a lot of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Are they
Same ball, same spec.
Yes, deny, right?
Yeah.
But what about
Yeah.
what about the reason? So the ball to make more home runs in this new game that we play, home runs and strikeouts, put people in the stands. People want to see the home runs. Yet when it comes playoff time, we don't want to see those. We want old style baseball pitching and smaller ball. What do you think that's all about? I like it.
I don't know what that's all about. I don't think that necessarily they're trying to bring back something that is not a fan favorite. It seems like the home run, chicks like the home run, but I think the young kids do too. I don't really know what the method behind the madness was, and it could be as simple as there's different batches of balls. You have seasonal balls that are stamped with this year's stamp, and then you have playoff balls that are stamped with playoff. 2019 American League Championship Series, that's on the ball. So that has to come out of the factory at a different time than the balls that came out of the factory earlier in the season. And it could be as crazy as the atmospheric pressure within the factory during the year. That it might be more humid, less humid, that affects that inner circle, that inner ball that's being inserted into the ball, and it just could be as simple as that. I have no idea. Yeah.
But there's an inkling that something's up with it.
There's no doubt that
Something's
something's up. Yeah, everyone should go to baseballreference.com, I think they have a great researched article on it, and it just tells it like it is. Yeah.
Now, if we were to get a ball from one per decade, mid-90s, mid-2000s, 2015, and we were to actually physically cut that baseball in half with a hacksaw and look at the inside of it, would we be seeing an evolution of the baseball in the past 30 years? Would we see it peaking and going back and forth, or do you think it kind of stayed standard?
Okay, so different countries have gotten a different contract over the years, and when it changed the country, went from Costa Rica to Dominican, and then the Dominican to somewhere. At one time, were using cowhide and horsehide and the difference in the hide that the country was actually using made the ball different. But what you'd want to see is that the length of the yarn, so there's yarn wrapped all around the ball, the length and the width of the yarn is to spec. So if you take the yarn and you stretch out the yarn in a ball from this year or one from 10 years ago, it will be the same length and it will look very similar in fabric. But the difference maker is the Super Ball, the inside, the area that allows the elasticity of the ball to occur, okay? Those balls are different. I suspect that this year's ball would react to a ball from the 80s like a Super Ball would react to a shot put. Would, you know, if you dropped them at the same time, this ball would come back up to your hand and the 80s ball would go about halfway. Yeah.
Now, what about the Japanese ball? How was that in comparison to the American ball? Because you were saying the leather is different, right? It's a little tackier.
That went a long way.
Tacky. Frank saw those balls. The difference is every ball in Japan is hand wrapped. And much like they do today, I believe in the major leagues, the manufacturer actually puts a substance on the leather that allows you to get a nice little grip to it. You notice there's no mud on the balls in the major leagues anymore. I just noticed it the other day when I went to a ball game and a foul ball came into the suite. And I grabbed the ball and I went, holy cow, there's a little stickiness to it, but there's no mud on it. So that old tradition of getting the Mississippi Delta mud that was come from one family would collect it and the umpires would rub up 10 dozen before the game and the clubhouse guy would continue to rub them up during the game. I guess that went by the wayside. And maybe that has something to do, that the leather is now of a different fabric, you know, a different consistency. I'm not sure, but it is different.
Seams are higher in Japan also.
Higher.
Yeah.
Well, they hand stitch them, so maybe there's a little
better feel.
Once in a while, there's a little something different. Yeah.
Interesting. You know what I thought was kind of interesting about all this is we started talking about the baseball and how it changed, and how it was manufactured in Costa Rica, and then changed the type of leather. You're seeing the business of baseball and the economics of baseball changing the play on the field, which I think is kind of interesting.
How so, Tim? In your observation?
Because if the MLB is responsible for sourcing all of the balls, correct? Not the teams.
Yes.
So if they go and they change manufacturers and they use a different type of leather, and it might be cheaper for them to manufacture it with cowhide or horsehide, but the ball will react differently on the field. So they're making an economical decision for the MLB.
Could
and
be
it's affecting the play on the field.
I doubt it, but could be. You know, yeah. You know, some people think in every situation in life, all you have to do is follow the money. You've heard that one before. It could be. I have no idea. Yeah.
And you mentioned before, you started talking about the three true outcomes: a walk, a home run, or a strikeout, and how that is. Verge, help me out here. That's more than 50% of the time now, right? Yeah. And how people want the home run, but it sounds like that has become less exciting, right? Because there's not as many double plays. There's not as many, multiple
balls
hits in a row. There's not as many balls in play.
Mm-hmm.
So this could be maybe a reaction to that. The home run is kind of getting boring.
Well, why in the playoffs? Why that's what I was asking before. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. Well, then those rules too, right? You mentioned before the minor league system being the beta system. Are any of those rules? Are they applying any of those going forward? How has that all been?
And how many guys
test
reach
rules
base?
in the
Yeah,
Atlantic
with
League?
like stealing first base. And
How many times did that actually happen? Do you know, Verge?
In the Atlantic League?
Yeah. Did it happen a lot?
I told Poletsky he needed to do it. Like, you only have so many opportunities to do this in life.
Be in the
You're
record
going to be
book.
one of like 8 people that can do this. Yeah.
Yeah, one of our guys was playing down there.
Yeah.
It's tough though, I mean, it's hard to swing at only swing at strikes, and then it's hard to say you're going to swing at a ball that the catcher's going to miss.
Right.
Yeah.
Now you could get together with the catcher and say, hey, let's do this together because I want to be the first to ever do it.
Right.
Because the Atlantic League no one's betting on it, I guess, and the integrity of that situation isn't that big a deal. Yeah, I would have liked to have been the first one. And then, they did without this check swing too. So that's all going to be data driven, right? They're going to collect the data. They're going to then apprise the data, compare the data, see if in fact any of this stuff looks different. You know what the data is all about? Let me give you can I give you my 30 seconds about data, huh? Yeah, you ready? Go. 30 seconds. 30 seconds on data is just this. All that the analytics do for everyone involved is allows them to see better. So if you're a player who has played the game for all of your life and you learn to understand the data, you will then be able to see what you've seen and see it better. It's like wearing a pair of glasses that are prescription glasses and just make your vision a little better. Now, for the person who really doesn't see it that well, but thinks they see it, thinks they understand what it is they're looking at, if they use the data, that's like putting a whole perfect set of glasses on and going from blurred vision to absolutely clear vision. And for the person who doesn't understand what they're looking at, if you look at the data, you can actually see. So that's like the Braille to those who don't know what they're looking at when they look at a swing, a throw, a field, a movement on an athletic or life's field, because everyone's using big data so that they could see what they think they saw better. Does that kind of get it? Confusing?
Yeah. No, I get it. Totally get that, because I live the opposite. When I went to Japan with you and we would talk in the dugout and you'd tell me what you just saw, I didn't see that. He had the slow motion camera, and I think that was before data was what it is now, and it took me time. I knew what I was looking for. I didn't need data for it, but it took me time to start to see, even in the same level as you, that I started. But it wasn't data, so people who haven't seen it now have data to reinforce it. That makes total sense.
They could then see it. Yeah.
Now it's an equation that helps it make sense to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And believe me, and the key to all these cultures that are using big data in an existing operation is the delivery system. Because it's often, if we take baseball, because that's what we're talking about, isn't it? So if you take baseball and you have a pitching coach, a hitting coach, a fielding coach, all who are responsible for their departments within the baseball team. And then you have an analytics department that is going to give them information that's going to help them understand their player and the competition. The key is how that information is being delivered to the coach, if it is the coach who's delivering it to the player, or how it is that the guy from the analytical department, and some of them have not played baseball, which is cool, but they haven't played. And sometimes when you get into that clubhouse, as Frank will tell you, and you haven't been in that clubhouse wearing the same costume as everybody else, you are an outsider and your stuff isn't received very well. So that delivery system is paramount in today's baseball world, and these guys who are interviewing people to manage, that's one of the things that they should be stressing. And when you hear about a guy being a good communicator, what that means is he is actually helping the delivery of the of the information, and then he's inspecting what he expects the delivery system to have delivered, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
Yeah.
Poor Anthony's got the diarrhea.
So
Again? Or still?
still running down his leg.
PT, we weren't talking about your diarrhea.
How about you? We should talk about PT.
PT.
Bobby's
No.
amazing dog who just is sitting here quietly, patiently through all this.
What he learned the other day? It's really kind of crazy. He's a cool dog, and so I said, PT, we have to get into this thing of staying. Okay, and anything that I do with him, I never do the food stimulation. It's just kind of words, and I've never hit him, and I've never yelled at him. But we talk a lot, and so I wanted to talk about this stay situation, and I said, here's the idea. When I put my hand in front of your face, I don't want you to move. And so I put my hand in front of his face, and then I walked out of the room, and he didn't move. And people said, "What was that you just did? How long did it take you to teach him to do that?" And I said, we just talked about it.
One conversation.
Conversation A and B.
I mean, we walked in today, Bobby wasn't here, and we look around, and there's PT just hanging out. It was pretty nice.
I said that to my neighbor last night. He said, "Hey, how was PT today at school?" I said, "Oh, he's learning a lot up there at higher ed. He's getting to be a real smart guy." He said, "Really, what did he learn today?" I said, "He learned to stay." He said, "How did you do that?" I explained it just like I explained it to you guys. And he says, "Oh, come on, you better go see someone if you think that stuff's happening." That's Dennis.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
Does he know we're talking about him?
He doesn't know we're talking about him. No.
So one time you asked him to do something and he did it.
Yeah.
We better not for you.
Yeah.
He's more obedient than the rest of us.
I know. It's crazy, but it worked this morning. You didn't forget. It was yesterday. You didn't forget yet. We'll try it later. We'll see what he does later.
I think we should try on camera.
Yeah. So you mentioned before Japan and you guys coaching, and I just kind of flashed back to one of my, bunch of really, really cool stories of you guys over in Japan. But one of my favorite stories is I was looking at you. I think you know where I'm going with this.
No, I don't. But remember, my stories are different than
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I've embellished.
They're different.
They're all good stories.
You were sitting in the dugout, and there was a serious moment.
I reminded him of that.
You know where I'm going?
The other day.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear it from Bobby's perspective. If you remember that, I'm sure a billion things went on over
Frank,
there.
I talk too much. Say what happened, and I'll either give a thumbs up to confirm or a thumbs down to deny.
Oh, you can't deny. I mean, one thing that was pretty cool is that to see you change throughout the game. That I thought you always tried to keep things light and tried to keep the guys together and make everybody relaxed and create the right environment. But as the game went on and more managerial decisions had to be made, you weren't quite. I mean, in the early stages of the game, we're having fun. You're goofing around. You're goofing with the guys. As the game goes on, they're starting to think, and the wheels are turning. And it was getting into wheel turning time. You were starting to look at the board more and more, and starting to figure out things for later in the game. Out of nowhere, sitting right next to me, he just looks over at me. I'm not going to swear, but he just looks at me and goes, "You got no effing lips." I've known the guy for, at the time, 35 years.
Never quite had that profile. It was a little different. There was lighting was different. I don't know what it was. He might have been just doing the.
And that was it.
But it was a lip. It was a lip moment. It was a observation of the lip moment. Yeah.
That was funny. That was really funny.
Weird stuff.
Yeah, we did a lot of crazy things in Japan, and one of the things that I got to enjoy last night is watching a little celebration of kind of a family friend, Zach Manassian, who was the first clubhouse guy that I ever had in baseball. He was 16 years old. When I was 18 years old, most of the guys were out of college who were on the team, so he was really kind of closer to my age, and the college graduates were, and we hung out together. So now it's 50 years later, and we're still buddies, and two of his sons are vice presidents of major league teams, and his other third son is kind of a vice president in charge of all the equipment for the Washington Nationals. So the stuff that the guys wear, the stuff that they buy, all of the back contracts for the minor leagues and the major leagues, he handles that, and so he's part of the team right now in the clubhouse, been traveling with the team for the last month, and he and my best friend got to taste the fruits of victory last night together, and it was really cool to see. Yeah, really cool to see.
Very cool.
And the one of the other sons was with Atlanta, so he's vice president of Atlanta. This one's Nationals. My buddy was thinking of his kids going against each other in the league championship series. It didn't happen.
Cool would that be?
Yeah, that would have been cool. But who do you root for? Yeah.
Well, you wear both shirts, like some other
Yeah.
parents do.
They do that. Yeah.
Like a split jersey.
Giuliani did it during the World Series. Half Met and half Yankee.
Yeah.
But all Yankee jersey and all Yankee jacket. I didn't think we got our fair
Yeah,
share
that
of
doesn't sound
No.
50-50 to me.
No.
I just thought of a funny story. There's so many of them from our Japan trip. I think I've told you guys this, but in Japan, every day before the game, we do shit the knock with infield, outfield. Every day.
What's it called?
Shit the knock. Shit the knock.
Yeah. Yeah, infield practice, outfield practice.
IO, as we know it here, which in the major leagues, is it ever done? Ever anymore? Never, right?
Never again, no. Some teams will do it first day in to a new city, if in fact there's a real difference in the turf. But to get full participation, it's never done. You know, and that started, I believe, in the mid-90s with Chipper Jones and Bobby Cox, I think. I always think I want to give credit to the people who did stuff. Like, who's the first guy who took the 3 days off when his wife was having a baby? All right? Because that never happened in baseball. Your wife had a baby? Call it in, big boy. If you're on the road, maybe everything's going to come out all right. And
You were in Japan when Zach was born, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
you know, he couldn't get the 3
Yeah,
days off.
you got me to go home. It was spring training though.
Yeah, it was in spring training.
By the way,
you went home.
was that the same Cox that was on Washington's?
Well, that was private Cox. You know. Yeah.
So back to my story. He always does that to me. He takes
But
the
the
story.
infield, the gig on the infield, his infield was precise. It was special. It was in time, on time. Everyone threw to the base. There was no dead time, and it was fun to watch.
Yeah,
it really was.
Well, that was
Yeah.
funny that you said that, but he made sure that you said that no waiting, balls aren't coming in. You got to be hitting the next ball all the time. Keep it moving, which I'm trusting. I see the ball come out of the outfielder's hand. I trust. I gauge where that ball is coming. I'm safe where I'm at to hit the next ball is kind of fun. But this
and everybody else is safe. And then they'll take the ball and they'll throw it to a guy on the side and put the ball in the basket. So you're continuously using a different ball too, right? Rather
Yes.
than waiting for the same ball to come back.
Constantly
Yeah.
moving. So but
Anyway,
and Bobby trying
one
to
time.
be
Yeah.
aware of how many games in a row we're playing, our travel, how fatigued the players are, the whole thing, and just trying to maybe give the guys a little rest. One day he says, we're in Tachikawa playing Cebu Lions, and say, no infield outfield today. I said, all right. So I got to go tell the players, no infield outfield, and that was probably year 1 or 2, but I knew enough how to say it. And I gathered them around real quick, and I had Koji with me, or I think it was Koji at the time, to interpret in case needed it. And I told them we're not going to have infield outfield today.
How'd that go over, Frank?
The freak.
It was the look on their faces was complete shock, and it's like the earth stood still for a couple of seconds. And I said, "Koji, that didn't go too well." So Koji said something to him, asked him, and they were. So Koji said, "Why don't we do something?" So I go tell him. I said, "Bobby, that didn't go over too well. they need to take infield outfield." Do you remember what we did?
Yeah, we did it without a ball.
No.
We
ran the bases. So led by me, because I was the infield outfield guy, we go to home plate, and the fans, it's getting close to game time, the fans are here, and we jog around the bases. It was one of the oddest, most weird things that I ever experienced. So fun. You're part Japanese. You don't get them off of their schedule. They have their routine that they like to do, and when you take them off of that routine, it creates a little bit of havoc. But we went on to win that game.
And
it was
it's
probably one of the
crazy.
smartest managerial.
Yeah, right, it was a big win. That was what a move. But it turns out that the system that we inherited there and some of it was hard to uncover, was that they would get rated on their practice, and that's how they get their pay. So it wasn't only what they did in the game, it was what they did when they worked. When they came to work and checked in, they were always on time. They were always in uniform on time, but how they performed in practice, there was someone always giving a little rating system, and those numbers were added up at the end of the year to determine whether they earned their money properly, deserved a raise, or deserved a cut. All together with winning a batting title. Wow. Yeah, which is kind of interesting because that they were working those hours.
Yeah.
Those are all hours that the employer, who is $40 billion family company, the new baseball is nothing but an advertising vehicle, that was the system that he had in place in all his other companies. And so when he bought the baseball team, he put the same system in place in the baseball team.
And back to that infield outfield thing, when you hit the next ball, as the ball is coming in, there was, and I think I know the name, but there was only one guy's throw that I could hear as it went by me, because I'm not watching anymore, I'm just hitting it. Minami? Was it Minami who had, just, you hear it
Cannon.
sizzling by me, and I'm standing at home plate. Yeah, cannon.
It's funny, the sizzle coming by, okay? What the sizzle is all has to do with today's world is that, from what I gather, that there were a couple of the smart guys who really hadn't been in uniform or at the plate at the major league level, and after collecting information through their ears in some meetings or talks, or maybe even at a bar, heard guys consistently talking about hearing certain curveballs. When Bert Blyleven's curveball came by, you could hear it come by. When you hit Nolan Ryan's fastball, you could kind of hear it come by, and that went on for years with certain players. That if you could hear it, good luck hitting it, is what we used to say. But from that came guys evaluating spin rate, okay, who said, oh, well, if they could hear it, it must be spinning differently than the other ball is spinning, and let's start measuring that. And I still don't totally get the conclusiveness of a ball that spins 2,400 times an hour, and how many times that spins in 0.4 tenths of a second, because that's the time it's in flight coming to the plate. And when I do it, I think it's about 18 revolutions for 2,400, and I'm just wondering how many different revolutions is it for 2,300? Is it just a quarter of a revolution more in that 0.4 seconds of time that a good curveball is spinning compared to a less than good curveball? And if it is, then we know what that dude meant by the law of relativity, huh? That it's not really spinning a lot more, it's just spinning more relative to the other one.
Right.
Huh? Is that what it is? That makes it a big difference?
Right. Because really hard.
Because is a quarter of a rotation in 18 rotations really a difference maker?
Seems it.
What do you think? Yeah, it seems it, but it doesn't seem it with your eyes, right?
Right.
No,
when you
not with your
conceptualize that flying over 6 feet, talking about a quarter of revolution,
Right.
makes that much of a difference.
It really makes that much of a difference?
I mean-
Or for that matter, when you saw that 100-mile-an-hour fastball come into vogue a few years ago, no one was able to hit it. So if you had the guy who threw 100, they weren't going to center the ball very easily, huh? And then more guys started throwing 100, and more guys started centering it more easily, huh? So was it the speed that 100 is really only 10% faster than 90, and it's coming in 4/10 of a second, and 10% of 4/10 of a second is 4,000th of a second. What kind of time is that? That's no time. So why should that be so much faster than the 90? And the only reason it was faster than the 90 is because you hadn't seen it
You're used to seeing
before.
90.
that it's relative to 90, it was something faster. Isn't that weird?
And that data just makes hitting sound harder.
Yeah, when you explain how much time you have to hit and what you're doing during that time, it's ridiculous to think that anyone could ever hit the ball. Yes, you let it be standing still. Unbelievable.
So you just mentioned Nolan Ryan.
Yeah.
I have a story to tell, but you tell it first. Your relationship with Nolan Ryan. And
Nolan Ryan. This is a long podcast, isn't it? Nolan Ryan. Yeah, so the first time I ever saw Nolan Ryan, I guess I hit against him when I was with the Dodgers and he was with the Mets, and I actually got a game-winning hit against him because the guy who knows more about me than I know about me told me that. But I never really met him until I got traded to the Angels from the Dodgers. And during the winter, this buddy who I already mentioned, Zach, and I went to the California State Fair. And what I could do as well as anybody in those days is throw something. And they had these softballs and they had these things that you could knock down. And I threw and knocked down them like it was no tomorrow, and got to carry out two of the biggest teddy bears that were ever stuffed at a carnival in the United States. Okay,
That's documented.
I think they were the biggest ones. I know. They told me they were the two biggest. And so I'm carrying one over one shoulder, and Zach's carrying one over his shoulder, and we're walking out of the state fair, and in comes this absolutely gorgeous blonde. And I have my visions kind of blocked out a little, but I could see her walking towards me, and I'm fixated on her because she's looking at me and smiling. And I'm saying, this might be my lucky day. And as she comes walking toward me, I go, "Hi, would you like this teddy bear?" And she said, "No, but I really want to welcome you to the California Angels. I'm Ruth Ryan, and this is my husband, Nolan."
Wow. On that story, you didn't recognize Nolan coming in.
I didn't see anything. That's what I wanted to say. Was I couldn't see around the corner of the bear's dick. So yeah, that's the first time I met her. Then I got to play center field at his first no-hitter, and then became the manager of the Rangers many years later, in 1986, and got Nolan in the winter of 1989, and he got to pitch his sixth no-hitter, his seventh no-hitter, his 3,000 strikeout game, and his 5,000 strikeout game, his 300th win. But Frank has a better story than that, because he was selling beef to the Japanese as a cattle rancher, and he was over in Japan trying to promote the U.S. cattle industry. And I invited him out to the game to throw out a first pitch, and he did.
And he did. And in Japan, it's different. The first pitch in America is it's a celebrity catcher, or whoever catches it. But in Japan, it's one of the players catching, and a player or a celebrity and an umpire at bat. So there's somebody standing in. And for Nolan Ryan, Bobby stood in, and Nolan Ryan from, I think it was...
We told him. He came out. I said, "Hey, Nolan, you know what's going on here. You're Nolan Ryan. You've thrown the ball faster than anybody ever lived. We got 40,000 Japanese people here and a TV camera, and they want to see you buzz it on the first pitch." He said, "Oh, Bobby, I got my cowboy boots on. I haven't been throwing that much. I don't know if I should do it." "Yeah, you got to do it." "No, well, shit, I'm going to have to go down to that bullpen and warm up." So I said, "Go down to the bullpen and warm up then." So he goes down and he warms up, and he comes in. He's announced, ready to throw out the first pitch. They put the thing up on the big scoreboard and take it from there. Right?
You're about to go.
Yes. So I stand in the box, and he winds up from the mound, and he does his traditional leg kick, and he throws one. And remember, all pitches are calculated in meters, in kilometers on the scoreboard, and they had the radar gun ready to show how fast he was going to throw it, and he threw it 142 kilometers, so 144 happens to be 90, and 160 is 100. He warmed up in his street clothes, in his cowboy boots, and threw a ball 88 miles an hour. The only problem is it came right at my head.
You were right.
It came right at my head. And I'm thinking I'm going to do the phantom swing and miss as every first pitch does there. You know, you act it out. I'm kind of goofing. And the bat went flying. My heels are pointing towards the heavens. I landed on my ass and he came down. He came walking down and he got down to where I was. He leaned down like this. And now we had, for the ceremonial first pitch, we had all the cheerleaders around the infield in a semicircle. We have cheerleaders on our game, and that was the way it looks most festive. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, before they did their dance. Yeah. Oh yeah. And
What did he say to you?
and he came down and he leaned over and he says, "Bobby, you all right?" And I was looking up, I said, "Yeah, I'm all right." He says, "I was distracted by those damn cheerleaders." And I swear it almost hit me in the head.
Yeah, 88 when you're young and playing every day, avoiding 88 at your head is not easy, but I don't know if you weren't in your playing days. You hadn't had many live at-bats against 88 in the last few years.
I don't know how I got out
It was
of
interesting.
You're right. It was
And you have a great picture of it somewhere.
Yeah, I'm in the air, my hat's off, the bat's out of my
that's
hand, and
great.
the ball's like right here, and it's coming.
And how old was he where he was still getting it up there?
Oh yeah, 50-something.
Oh,
yeah.
that's impressive.
Oh yeah, 50-something, absolutely. Yeah,
That's really
and throwing
impressive.
batting practice. You know, at the time he had bought the minor league teams in Round Rock, Texas, and another one that had his sons running the minor league team. So he would go out and throw batting practice all the time as part of that thing. He lives in Alvin, Texas, out there in Alvin, you know, where Nolan lives, and so he was in good shape. His arm was in good shape. But interestingly enough, his son now is the president of the Astros. So he went from the minor league general manager to the CEO of a minor league team to Nolan, I think maybe having a little piece of the Astros at one time and then getting his son. Oh, then they bought the independent team and made it a AA team, I believe, the Astros did. And now he runs one of the most successful baseball organizations in the world. And Nolan was the first guy to get digitized, okay, for whatever it's worth. Nolan came out and we were digitizing, and I think it was my first year in spring training Arizona with my Japanese team in '94. And so we were going to do video capture there, Tom House and
Invention of the towel drill?
same year that the towel drill came
Cool
out.
story
Yeah.
too. Yeah, I like that one.
But he actually came out, put on the wetsuit, and put on all the little balls connected to each one of his joints, and we had filmed a 3D environment made out of PVC piping. So all this PVC was all around on the mound, and you got to film that from all the different angles and the 6 cameras that were there. You then take the cube away, and you put the person inside the cube, and then he pitches, and all the points are put into the computer, the data points, and you make a stick figure out of that movement within the 3D environment. Interestingly enough, at the Materi Center across the street, we have a 3D capture room where we make avatars for video games and things, you know, and your movement could go in and be, you know, the Tim and Anthony avatars that we do our promotions with. Anyway, they use the same basic technology. It's just that the room is already filmed in, so they know that it's that 3D environment. Yeah, kind of cool. And he was the first one to do it, and I got to see him in a stick figure form, which blew my mind when I got to see him not only pitching, but you could turn it around and see him pitching left-handed, as you guys know now, and all the things you do. See over the top, and see what it looks like from the bottom, see what it looks like from the top, and yeah, he was our guinea pig. With a guy named Irabu at the time who was pitching on my team, who threw a bullpen for Nolan Ryan and had Nolan Ryan say that the ball came out of his hand better than anybody that he had ever seen. ... but I never seen myself throw. So he said.
That's a good one.
So we could go on forever.
Yeah.
Well, how about when you were managing him in his last, for the no-hitter for you, his pregame? Warming up in the bullpen, was that House?
Yeah, it's kind of legendary, but Tom House is a pitching coach, and the bullpen in Texas, this old Texas Stadium, was down in right field, and when you left the bullpen, you had to walk underneath the stands and all around, and then come down the aisleway and into the dugout to get out onto the field. And so Nolan had his ritual where he would walk down with the pitch coach and get to his hanger for his hat where he would always sit, and he'd always have his hat taken off when he would take it off, and he took his hat off and put it and toweled off his head as he always did, and he had the big white towel over here, and everyone takes the field as he enters the dugout, and then they're out in the field, and then he does his thing and he turns around and then he enters the field. So there's two kinds of roars of the crowd, one for the guys who are going to try to catch it, and then the other one for Nolan. And as he finished wiping his head off, he put the towel up on the hook, he took his hat, put his hat on as he always did, and he got ready to turn to go out the 3 steps onto the field and said, "You better get someone ready. I think this is it." And he went out to warm up. And with that, I turned around and Tom House, the pitching coach, is walking down the aisle, and I look at him and he looks like he just saw a 6-car collision and everyone was decapitated. I said, "Tom, what's the story?" And he says, "He can't reach the plate." I said, "Well, that's quite the story." And I said, "With all of his pitches?" And he said, "I think this is it." And he went out and he bounced 5 pitches. The catcher went out and picked them up as he was warming up, threw it out, threw it back. I don't think he threw his full 8 pitches. I called down to the bullpen, got Dale Mahorsic up, ready to go. I thought this was going to be that moment in time where I have to go out and wave to the crowd as they're throwing shit at me and cheering him for the last time I'll ever pitch. And he walked down toward home plate as he always did. He'd walk about 3/4 of the way down, surveying the grass. And then he'd always pick up a little something in the grass and he'd kind of toss it away. And that would mean that would signal the gates opening for him to go out on the mound. And he walked up on the mound, and he turned around, fixed his hat, and he threw a ball 97 miles an hour and walked 2 guys and threw a no-hitter for his 7th no-hitter that day. Yeah, really, really incredible. And no one knows why, how, what clicked, what didn't click. He couldn't warm up. He stopped warming up, as I remember, less than 8 pitches. And then he walked around, and whatever he said, whatever he did, went click on Nolan Ryan. Hello. And the other Nolan Ryan one that we got to tell, this is real quick. He's going for his 5,000th strikeout. It's an amazing scene. He comes into the game, I think, with 4,996. So everyone who bought a ticket says, "All right, 4 more. I'm going to be there for that 5,000 strikeout." At the time, no one even had 4,000 strikeouts, and now he's approaching that milestone at, I think, age 44. And anyway, he gets 3 strikeouts. I think it might have been the 3rd inning or maybe the 4th. Ricky Henderson's a leadoff hitter for Oakland. He comes to the plate. Nolan now has 4,999 strikeouts in his career, and he has a 3-2 count on Ricky. And the entire place is standing, everyone's holding their breath. And as he wound up and threw that pitch and let that pitch go, the entire stadium lit up like one flashbulb. Because everyone had their little brownie camera and had it set, and the sun had just gone down, and it was like, boom, in the whole stadium. It knocked me backward. I was up on the top stair. It stunned me and knocked me backward. Everyone went in the dugout, whoa, like that. And he threw 97, cutting away from Ricky Henderson, and Ricky swung and fouled it off. And I thought that was one of the greatest hitting moments of my life, to see someone do that in that moment. The next moment, he threw it again, the lights went on, and he struck him out for his 5,000
Everybody
strikeout.
advancing their camera.
We remember. Well, you know what you guys have to do, because I have all you guys on campus. You have to walk in, I think our volleyball team's practicing.
Cool.
And I think you want to check out that
Let's go check it out.
style of athlete, because they're spectacular.
Awesome, perfect. Well, Bobby, thank you so much for giving us your time today. This has been an awesome time for us to be able to spend with you. So that's today's episode of Shooting the Breeze at Bobby V's. And make sure you guys subscribe to all of our channels down below. Hit the like button, hit some comments if you guys have any other topics, and we'll see you guys next time.
And if you listen to this in its entirety, probably a good decision. It's not going to be like this all the time, all right? Don't get used
Get
to
a
this.
life is what I want to say. If you listen to all this, get a life.
He usually does. Thanks, guys. Have a good one. Awesome. Nice shot, Bob. Thank you.
Too much time.
I could live up to
That's
those
good.